Hey, Matt.
Hey, Mike.
Do you like knowing things?
I do. Do you?
I do. Is it possible to know too much?
Oh, definitely. One might even say it's a curse.
We should talk about that.
Let's do so.
On a podcast.
Okay. How about now?
Now's good. Yeah, let's do now. Welcome to Hacking the Grepson, the software development podcast where I, Mike, talk with that other guy, Matt.
Me.
Him. About related things. And today we have a very interesting podcast. A very interesting, well, I mean, it is, but I mean, that's a little meta. A very interesting blog post that was brought to our attention by another fellow developer who has been on the podcast, Richard, for our Advent of Code episodes. He
Shout out to Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. You posted this, and man, this is a really interesting blog post where the title is called "The Curse of Knowing How," or fixing everything. And I'm going to toss it over to Matt to get us started. But man, this one really feels relatable. It's eminently quotable. I must have written down at least like half a dozen quotes just from this blog post of things that this person said that are just like hitting me really strong. But Matt, start us off. What is this all about?
Yeah, so kind of the gist of this article, The Curse of Knowing, which comes from notashelf.dev, which, by the way, fantastic name. I don't know what it means, but I like it. It talks about how as you learn more about how to program, or really this is true for anything, right? As you learn more about how to do things, when you see other people having done that thing, or you use a product that does the thing, let's say software, just to keep it simple. You know how to code, you use a piece of software and you're like, I don't like the way this code works, or this could be better.
If only Matt had ever felt that.
I know, I never feel that way. And then you go and write your own, right? And that's the curse, right? Is the more you know that you could just do that in the way you want, right? There's this 80-20 rule that they don't talk about in the article, right? Where like 80% of users use 20% of your features. But if you're not in that 80%, I don't want those 20% of features. I want the ones I care about, right? I want to be able to filter out everything. And in a lot of ways, I feel, and that's one of the things that you could do that is kind of in line with this whole curse of knowing. The thing that really captured me on this, though, is that one of the subheadings is technical capability as a moral weight. You almost feel obliged to do these things. This is wrong. I should just fix that.
You know how. Right? How could you not?
Yeah. And I do this every day with everything all the time. It makes me really upset.
It sounds exhausting, Matt. Is it exhausting?
Yes, I'm asleep right now. And it kind of goes on to talk, about the balance that you need to strike with that, burnout, and learning to let it go. It's a pretty good article. People should check it out. We'll put the link in the description. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, Mike. I think that's a good overview. But Mike, what did you think about this?
So it's definitely relatable in hey, I've been doing something for many years, and so I have a certain level of knowledge that I have now that is significantly different from when I started. To use an analogy, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I tend to be interested in music and audio related things sometimes, and so I have definitely said something like the following statement to someone in the past like 20 years is that like when I listen to a piece of music now, any kind of, whether it's pop music, rock music, classical, abstract, experimental, whatever, I find it really hard to just consume the music. Like hear it as what it is, which is often like a product or a commodity that is there for some specific reason to fill space or to be the background for something. Even just listening to like Taylor Swift with my daughter.
Hey, she's good.
No,
talented songwriter.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I feel like she's a good example of someone who, has put out a lot of music over a long period of time. A lot of people complain that it's, simplistic because it's pop music, or that it's too samey, but it almost doesn't matter. Like, I can listen to a Taylor Swift, song just as, curiously and analytically as, like a Beethoven symphony. It doesn't really matter. It's just that I have both been listening to music and writing and playing music for decades. And so I just know an amount about it, how it's made. Like if I listen to something, I might know roughly what key it's in, or maybe some of the chords it's using. I understand the rhythm. I've heard that kind of music. Oh, I know where this is going to go next. And it often spins something in my head of like, oh yeah, I haven't made anything like that in a while. That's cool. I forgot that that's a really cool kind of music or something. I'm going to go make that. And then I'm inspired to go make it. It's different from kind of what this article is talking about. This is more of like almost like a moral or ethical responsibility that becomes a burden, that becomes like a Sisyphean task where you see all these wrongs in the world, and because you have the knowledge, you feel compelled to fix them. I mean, I feel compelled.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Everyone. Like, everywhere. Yeah. All the time.
Like you can't consume software. You can't just use a program and be like, okay, that did a thing that I needed. I'm done. Instead, you find all the inconsistencies and the bugs and the features it doesn't have, and you want to fix it.
So I was going to ask you about that with music, because I have the same thing with live theater and comedy, where I can't help myself but view it from
like academically.
It was like 15 years of my life where I did this many hours of the week, semi-professionally. It's hard not to view it really analytically. And the problem I have is sometimes I will enjoy things more because of it. If something is really well done, I can appreciate the acting and the writing or the clever thing that they just said. I'm like, oh man, the stage picture is really good. When I went and saw Hamilton for the first time, I was blown away by how smart the stage design was. And I didn't even do any of that in improv, but because I have that tool kind of built into me. On the other side, though, is if it's even the slightest thing wrong, I notice it so much, and it stands out like it's being highlighted. The littlest thing, I'm like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't believe you did that.
And that's the part, for me, that overlaps with this article. Do you ever get that with music?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it's more that, like, when I'm listening to something that's, like, more formulaic or more mainstream, I just know where it's going to go. It doesn't surprise me. It's like, yes. I want to just listen to it and be like, yeah, this is a well-constructed song because it's following a formula that is known to be good. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but man, couldn't it have been a little more syncopated? Like, oh, okay, yeah, now they're going to do a bridge for a few bars, and then they're going to go back into the chorus, and they're just going to repeat, and they're going to repeat the same words. They're not going to come up with like different words for the second or third chorus when they could have. I mean, could you have put a little more effort into it? It's just like, it's hard not to, put your finger out like you're drinking tea and make a comment like in your head, God forbid, out loud to other people and annoy them.
Wait, you can say them just inside? I thought you had
if
to
you
say
try
them out loud.
really hard. Yeah.
So, and you started mentioning this, but I thought it was important to kind of dig into the analogy a little bit deeper, since we both have experiences of it outside of software development as well. But this absolutely applies to software development. I get very frustrated very quickly with software that doesn't behave in a good way. If it doesn't have a good user experience, I am pissed off about that faster than anybody I know. And it's not a thing I try to get pissed off about faster. I just am.
Yeah.
When I've worked in like video adjacent things for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Right. Writing software. I don't make videos, but I write a lot of software that plays them or helps play them or keeps them secure or whatever. So it's a thing that gets ingrained. And when back when I had a cable box, when the cable software would stop working correctly, it would make me so angry if I couldn't just immediately fix it. I'm like, this is so simple to fix. This is like programming 101. Just why don't you just have an option for me to go in there and click a button, right? And it's not there. And I will seethe about it. And the thing that comes to my mind over and over and over again is, I could do this better than them. And then the next question is, well, why don't I do that? The answer is I'm lazy. But also, years and years of experience have taught me it's never actually as simple as you think it is. We used to joke at my last job that we could rewrite like the core system in like 15 minutes. But I got to know that software really well. No, we couldn't.
So some of the headings here that really lead into each other that I think kind of tackle the negative limit as x goes to infinity on this thing is entropy is undefeated, the illusion of finality, technical work as emotional regulation, and the burnout you don't see coming. Now, entropy undefeated and the illusion of finality is basically like, as they quote in here, if I just get this set up right, or if I just write that program, I'll never have to touch it again. Like if I write the config and I spend a little more time scripting this, or I make another little tool, or if I automate this, I'll save time forever and it's totally worth it. You know, that's a fallacy. Like you're never going to be done. There's always going to be more. Another thing was like software becomes a to-do list. Like everything you use potentially comes a thing for you to work on. And it never ends. If you keep interacting with the world, unless you seal yourself in a hermetically sealed room where you only use no software ever, you're going to find more software. It's going to be written. It's not going to be, you're not going to write all the software. You just can't and live in this world. And so you have to learn to let go, and you have to not get to that burnout that you don't see coming if you treat everything like a to-do list. And yeah, that really, I mean, I've definitely felt that way because I've probably spent too many hours like on, say, my dot files that I use on my machine for like, my bash setup and my config and my path and my prompt and my aliases and my functions. Believe me, I've got a whole set of them. I've spent who knows how many hours tinkering with them to get my environment set up just right. And then I'll get to a new computer and I'll just be like, well, I'll go into a server or something that doesn't have all that stuff set up, and I have to deal with it. And I just have to use, what is standard on a Unix server. It makes me think of my coworker that I had at my old job who was very against all that customization for that very reason. He was like, no, it's not worth it. It's a losing battle. Just learn to adapt to your situation rather than trying to control it constantly, because it's exhausting, it never ends, etc.
That's actually the reason I started using VI instead of Emacs, actually, was VI is on every Linux, Unix machine ever.
Yeah.
Like, you can't not have that there. Emacs is not always there, and you don't always have a GUI, which is where I liked using Emacs. I didn't really like using it in the terminal. I liked using it as a GUI. I'm like, this is great. So I ended up learning VI. I still don't like VI, but I know it really well now from years and years of having to use it. And so when I need to do something, Vim is like the first thing I think of when I go to open a file. I'll be in my IDE, but in the terminal.
Yeah.
And instead of opening the file up there, I'll type Vim file. What is wrong with me? Right. But that's how I ended up switching over that.
That's awesome.
I thought one of the things that they touch on in this article that you mentioned it as the title, but it really stood out to me because I definitely have experienced this, which is the burnout you don't see coming. I have absolutely experienced and am possibly still in burnout, not just like job wise, but like just in life. It can become overwhelming if you have this kind of mindset that they are talking about in here. It's easy to become burnt out because it's the burnout of feeling responsible instead of the burnout of doing. And that responsibility piece is such a weight. I have a sticky note on my monitor at all times to remind me I cannot control everything. And that's really kind of where this article goes. You can't fix everything. You can't repair everything. You can't improve that. You can't rebuild it. You can, but there isn't enough time or energy on the planet for you to do that. You're not immortal yet. Still looking for that vampire, as my dad says. But that burnout is so important. I frequently, I think the biggest thing that I take home from work, like the baggage you tend to take home from work, if you had a bad day and then you're grumpy at home, whatever, is the obligations, right? I feel a great sense of responsibility to make sure that my customers at work, which are other developers, can do their job effectively. If something I did gets in their way, I'm going to fix that. I don't care how long it takes, right? But that extends to like, I should preemptively do that. I should start watching all of their Slack channels so I can see when a problem pops up early. I should have all of these alerts go to me so I know right away. That should push to my phone. And that builds and builds and builds. And then it's the end of the day and my alarm goes off to take out the trash and I just want to break down and cry. Like, I don't want another obligation. I want to go hide in the forest for the next month by myself and not talk to anyone, so that I would literally not obligated to do anything for anyone. And that's not healthy.
No.
And that this really hit home because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all feel a lot of what this article says. Certainly the three of us that were talking about it, you, me, and Richard, are all like, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, the knowing which problems are actually worth your energy and knowing when to stop are such important concepts to prevent that burnout.
Yeah. I think just to quickly go back to the, spending too many hours on my config files, the heading technical work as emotional regulation is definitely something I think that I probably do without even knowing. And I just want to read what they said here. They quote Marcus Aurelius first, and they say, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But then they say, "But programming lures us into believing we can control the outside events. This is where the suffering begins. There's something deeper happening here because it's not just about software. Sometimes we build things to self-soothe." And it definitely...
because it gives you a piece of control.
Right. There's definitely control in that. It's like, I have this power. I can make something that didn't exist before, and it can affect... positively, I'm going to do it. This is a weird tangent, but it immediately reminded me of this old sitcom. Do you remember Home Improvement with Tim Allen?
Yes. I was actually just thinking about it this morning, oddly enough.
That is very odd. And his always full of wisdom neighbor Wilson, that's on the fence. You can never see his face. Yeah. And I remember one episode, for some reason, I don't know, this episode of all the other ones, is that I don't know what Tim was doing that day, but basically Wilson said something like, men are often jealous of women because they can make human life. And so men spend a lot, and men like humankind over, our history have spent so much time making things.
Not all men, Mike.
Yeah. No. Have people have spent making everything else because they're trying to make up for that gap in that they feel bad that they can't make another human life.
Interesting.
It's like that's like the one thing we can't make, so we make everything else to make us feel better. This is a similar thing where like I often feel in the world, like just as a human being, that there is a lot of things out of my control, both in a microcosm, in my own life, and a macrocosm in the world at large. And finding anything that I can do to bring a little more control, feel a little victory, feel like I did something good, like I used my knowledge or my smarts or whatever. Programming is definitely one of those things, even if it just means that I find like, a shorter version of an alias that I used to run something that's better than the last one, and it feels weird to use it in that way, but it totally is. And that's why that whole section hit me. Yeah.
I use the term, and I have been for years, I didn't make it up or anything, but sometimes you need a little win.
Yeah.
Right? A little win. That's what I call those. And it's true. It's actually really important to recognize if you are the kind of person like you and I are, who does kind of get this kind of feeling, is to realize like, hey, you know what? I'm getting overwhelmed. I need a little win.
Yeah.
And then I will intentionally stop. Like if I'm stuck on something at work that's just killing me and I'm beating my head against the wall, that is that problem for, in some cases, weeks. The best thing I can do is stop doing that. But the best thing I can do in addition to stopping doing it is to go do something where I feel like I was successful, productive, efficient. I won.
Yeah.
Right. I made this thing. It scratched that itch of like, hey, I am not an idiot when it comes to programming. Look, I can do stuff. Look at how good, this was easy for me. I can do this. I can go figure that other thing out. And like, you need those You need wins in order to keep going forward. I'm sure there are people out there for whom that is not true. Please write us and tell me your secret.
I don't know how that works, but yeah. I wonder, I mean, to get on a more existential level, that whether people like us who get into careers like this, who may have come from a childhood, if not still an adulthood, where we're not necessarily the popular ones, maybe we're not the overly social ones, so the things that we do in the world are not on a big social extroverted stage that lots of people can see. And so we are looking for stuff like this to carve out our little footprint because we don't live on that stage and we never have. And this is how we cope.
It's validating.
Yeah.
When I would do an improv show and the audience laughed, I'm like, okay, I'm good at something. And it was, after years of practice, relatively easy to do that. Not doing improv frequently anymore, I don't get that. And so like coding has become, and podcasting, but I don't get the immediate feedback.
So good at this.
Podcasting, right?
Podcasting's so hard.
Good. It's amazing. Hello to our 2 listeners.
Hey, Mom.
But like, you need that kind of, if you don't have that kind of feedback, you need that validation, even if it's coming from yourself. You're like, you know what? I did that.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like the compiler is validating you, or the interpreter, depending on the language. Go check out a couple episodes ago. Right? It's like, hey, this worked. And then it executes, and it did what you wanted. You got the output you wanted. And it's like, you know what? I'm all right.
Yeah. I did want to ask about your venture into woodworking and whether you have become like that at all the more you've worked on it, or are you still kind of at the, I don't see every piece of wood project as a to-do list?
That's an interesting question. I don't think I've gotten there with wood projects in general, but if something is flawed in a way that might not be obvious to everyone, but would be if you like take even a second, if you know any of the techniques, yeah. I'm like, why did they do it this way? Right? Why didn't they use this joint instead of just putting a screw there? Time, energy, efficiency, right? I know these things. Capitalism.
Definitely capitalism.
That's the one for today. Right? And I do that, but also the thing where I really do it with woodworking is on tools. I have found I'm very critical of tools. I've started to make or improve my own tools, and that is a dangerous game to get into.
Yeah.
But also fun.
So just to wrap up this discussion, I'm curious, is it really worth learning and knowing things if these are the drawbacks, or should we just do the ignorance is bliss? Are we heading the wrong direction? What do you think?
I mean, it's a question of what you value. Do you value your personal life, or do you value society and people as a whole, right? If no one knew this stuff, we would stagnate. I think improvement is super important in life, personally and societally. Like, moving forward is, to me, the purpose of life. It's let's make things better going forward. And so knowing this stuff gives me that ability to do that. But it is super dangerous if you aren't mindful about knowing when to stop, which is like the last bullet they have on there. And I keep going back to it because that's what I need to know. You need to know when to stop. Moderation in everything, including moderation, to go with my really old saying.
They end this article by saying, you learn how to program, you learn how to fix things, but the hardest thing you'll ever learn is when to leave them broken. And maybe that's the most human skill of all. The more you know, rainbow. Anyway,
Love that.
Great article. Like, I read a lot of blog posts on the internet about lots of different things, but this is definitely like one of those ones that I would star and share and come back to and still feel like it hit the nail on the head. So kudos, Raf from notashelf.dev.
I really want to know the meaning of that thing. I'm going to have to go look it up after this.
You should. Maybe it's a sailing term. They say they're a sailor, which is kind of interesting. A dev and a sailor. Anyway, that does it for this episode about the curse of knowing. If you would like to hear more discussions, you can find them at hackingthegrepson.com. We try to put out an episode every other week on Wednesday. And until the next time, We now return you to your regularly scheduled lives already in progress.